Welcome to episode 6 of the Eden Experience. I am going to try and do this with my sweet 11-week-old son to the left of me and my sweet 14-year-old dog to the right of me. Let's see how much I can get through. What has been happening lately? I have been deep in boundary world, which is where I love to be. It is the ethos and core of my business. And why do I care about boundaries so much? Because I think we need to unfuck our boundaries. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there about boundaries. I think Brené Brown succinctly put it that boundaries are the way that we love ourselves and the world simultaneously. And what I see a lot with clients and just women in general, and I've seen this in myself as well, we need to unfuck our boundaries. Why do we need to do this? Because so many of us, even if we identify like I do as a strong, take no shit woman, we still slip into appeasement, fawning, people pleasing. We still slip into this martyrdom, oh no, put everyone else's needs before our own. And look, it is tribal. I've done a little bit of content on this, the fact that we are hardwired to prioritize connection to others over connection to self. Because back in the day, in our hunter-gatherer days, that literally meant survival. And for women, we need to be in a tribe. We need to be protected. We are the givers of life and we have babies. So it makes biological sense, right? But in the modern day world where we don't really need the tribe anymore, though we do for our internal needs, isolation and loneliness is a killer. So we can't be too isolated or lonely. But we don't need the tribe as much as we used to in terms of protecting from animals and other tribes and things like that. Now, especially for postpartum mums, and this is a whole separate podcast episode, we need the village. We need a village. Women need women. So we desperately need our tribe and village when it comes to our vulnerable times, which are generally our threshold crossings, right? Moving in matrescence, motherhood, getting our first period, things like that. These important moments in a woman's life. We need our tribe around us. We need elders and young women. We need everyone to come together and share their knowledge and experience. But I digress. Boundaries are really fucking important. And the thing that I like to say, and I will say this again, I will scream it from the rooftops. I will probably get t-shirts printed. In fact, I should do that. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges back to yourself and connection to others. I'll say it again. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges back to yourself and connection to others. We need boundaries. Think about it this way. Understanding where your boundaries are is understanding where the edges of you live and where the rest of the world begins, right? If we don't have them, the lines are blurred. And that's when we slip into people pleasing and appeasement and all of these types of things and fawning. It can feel really difficult to uphold boundaries, and there is a lot of societal conditioning in there and conditioning that we've grown up with that kind of combats and pushes against our boundaries, which is why it is, I guess, the signature thing that I work on in my business, because it's been the biggest struggle of my life and the biggest struggle in the lives of all the women that I teach and work with. If you haven't watched any of my episodes before, by the way, I'm Alex and I'm a somatic practitioner and a nervous system educator. I do a lot of other stuff too, but those are the two main ones. And the scope of my work is essentially talking to you a lot about, one thing is boundaries, but how to live an embodied life as a woman. There are lots of different facets of that, and the podcast is one way that I educate and also give you a little window into my world so you get to know who I really am. You can go to my website and have a look at a few things. All the links are below. But the most important thing is my lived experience and my story is what got me here. It's what spurred me on to study clinically, but I know what it's like to struggle with boundaries. I know what it's like to disappear. I know what it's like to prioritize others over myself. And I know what it's like to completely shut down. I experienced it in my first marriage. I ignored the signs of my body so much that there were physical consequences to that. Psoriasis all over my body, even my eyelids. I know what it's like to disappear and struggle and take myself to the edges of who I am. and look in the mirror and not know who I am. And I also know what it's like to walk myself back, to find myself again, to rediscover what my values are, to uphold, enforce, and be proud of my boundaries, and to start to love myself again. Because boundaries are the way that we do that. They are the way that we love ourselves. It doesn't sound like that because they're so misunderstood, but they are how we love ourselves in the world simultaneously. And when you have strong boundaries, you have strong capacity. Those two are interlinked. Now, what do I mean by capacity? Capacity is your ability to stay measured, to respond, not react. It's your engine fueled to meet life where it is. If you have low capacity, then you will struggle with seemingly small things. It's the straw that broke the camel's back analogy. You are seemingly fine. I'll give you an example out of my own life. I am trying really hard to get back into my business because I love it so much. I have an 11-week-old son, a 14-year-old dog, and a beautiful husband. That's a lot just in itself. And some days I really struggle because I love my son so much and being his mum is such an honor. But then trying to squeeze in work and a podcast like this and clients and things like that, sometimes at the end of the day, I have no capacity and I will find myself bursting into tears in the kitchen over something really small, like I dropped the serving spoon for the pasta on the floor. Yeah, that is my body's way of showing me that I have low capacity. So what do I need? I need stronger boundaries around my capacity. What does all that mean? It means that I need to work in some protected, sacred time for me to make sure that I'm doing things that refill my capacity. So what are the things that make me feel grounded and present and joyous and fulfilled? Those are the things that are going to help me increase my capacity to meet life where it is. It's when we don't invest and pour into our cup like that, when we don't take quiet time or go for a walk by ourselves, whatever your version of that is. I know when I don't have quiet time in the morning to have a cup of tea outside alone, I struggle. I start to feel like the world is really loud and I get itchy and antsy. And I know you know that feeling. This is why boundary work is really important to me. It shows up in all different aspects of our lives, but it holds very close hands and very tight hands with self-love. We talk about self-love and self-care and all these self things, but what is the actual doing of that? What is the action of self-love? And I think that it is boundaries. I think boundaries are a fucking love language to ourselves. And if we're boundaried around the fact that I need my sacred time in the morning because I am a better human when I have that, that's a boundary to uphold and enforce because it not only serves you, it serves everyone around you and the world. You will be a happier, more fulfilled, grounded, calm, responding over reacting person. Boundaries are not a dirty word. My sweet boy who's just eating his hands at the moment. I'm going to keep this one short, but I want to leave you with this. Sometimes the shadow work on self, it can feel like a fucking drag. And you can feel really beaten down and it can feel like, my God, it's just never ending. There's so much shit that I need to do. It's okay, babe. Just a little bit at a time. We are all just walking ourselves home. And this is all of our first times in this realm. Maybe not all. So just go easy on yourself. We do this in sips, not gulps. We are not trying to heal overnight, have big, crazy, cathartic releases. This is the journey of life. The work is to live, right? It's not separate. It's not like, oh, I do the work, and then I get to live. It's the journey. It's the whole beautiful experience, you know? And you get to use all the crayons in the coloring box, not just the ones that you like. Because let me tell you this is what I know to be true. Everything exists on a spectrum. What I mean is the deeper that you go in to the darkness of yourself, the deeper you go into your shadow, the deeper you work and excavate, is to the degree that you can go up into joy and love and just absolute beauty. It's all on a spectrum. If you are only going that far into yourself, you'll only go that far into joy and love and all the other things. But if you spread out that spectrum and you go much deeper and you face all the things that you know you need to face, and it doesn't have to be so fucking scary. That means that you can go much further and much deeper into joy and love and embodiment and all the juicy things that we love about life, right? We can meet this like warriors. We can meet life like a warrior. Let's not be afraid to excavate a little. Let's lift up the hood on the car, see what's going on underneath, find our tribe of people, find our resources, go on the hero or the heroine's journey. Because I don't know about you, but I want to squeeze all the juice out of this delicious life. I want to get to the end of my life and think, yeah, I lived. In fact, you know what my biggest fear is? It is getting to the end of my life and meeting the version of me that lived to her fullest potential and me not measuring up. I want to meet her and I want to be looking in a mirror because she is me and I lived all the way. I wasn't afraid. I lived a brave life. I did the work. I lived joyously and beautifully and full of happiness and love because I went into those places that required my attention. That's what I want. And each time you go into those places, you'll become less afraid. You'll realize that fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be. Hi, honey. The key is to find a bomb-ass group of people to do it with. That's why I built my business. If you're interested, I can put links below for the next Embodied Boundaries cohort. You will join a bomb-ass group of women doing the same work that you are and you'll be friends for life. My sweet boy is wanting me right now, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Until next time, remember, boundaries are not walls, they are bridges. Love you.